Hey, good afternoon. We got a show for you today. This afternoon, we're gonna kick off what they call Women's Month, the month of March, with our key topic today is gonna be feminism. What is it? When did it start? What's the origin? Is it racism? Uh, Covert racism? What is feminism? We got our contributor. Dre is with us this afternoon, and she's here. She's here to join us. What's up, Dre?
What's up? What's up, Q? What's up, family? How y'all doing today?
Sorry, we're a little discombobulated, but we both did some research, and Dre, you could start this off, man, and we'll
Okay,
go from there.
I know that is March is Women's Month and it's also Social Work Month. So shout out to all the social workers. I'm a social worker as well. I don't agree. So let's start this off with a disclaimer. I'm not a feminist. Because I feel like any type of movement that was started based off of white supremacy and that, the who birthed white supremacy, white mothers started this um movement. I don't agree with anything that's anti-male, and you have these buzzwords of toxic masculinity anytime that is splitting the black family, and when black women are support of it, and they're what the most single parent household led. I have a big problem with that. And for women to be feminists, y'all don't know the context behind it, with even Gloria Steinem and how she, supported, women's suffrage, and how racist that was. Because you gotta think when women's suffrage started, our ancestors were still slaves. So we have to really, check ourselves when we join certain movements.
One of the things that I noticed in the research was the suffrage movement, which was championed by Susan B. Anthony, and unfortunately, Frederick Douglass's second wife. How blatant racist they were at the time, and how even they attacked Frederick Douglass, which is surprising that he actually married a woman in the suffrage movement. One of the things that I noticed, even in the State of the Union, how the women congresswomen all wear white in honor of the suffrage movement. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they don't know. I don't know if they don't care. I don't know. I don't know why they would wear it. I don't know why a black woman or anybody from the Latino origin would ever wear the suffrage movement in honor of their movement, their stuff, to get on that. One of the issues that I did some, like I said, we both did some research,
Mm-hmm.
and the lady Staten and Susan B. Anthony both they betrayed black women during the movement. If you
Right.
look in the history of women's suffrage, it has 6 volumes. That's a 6 volume book set. You can find that where they betrayed the black women and how they basically what they don't say in traditional history books is how they needed the slaves and the former slaves at the time to help them get their rights from basically their men.
Mm-hmm.
So this was one of the reasons why they needed Frederick Douglass and a lot of the blacks. They even tried to say Sojourner Truth was part of the suffrage movement, and in all actuality, they attacked her as well because
Mm-hmm.
she did speak up for women's rights, but she didn't attack black men in the process.
Right. Exactly. And so, we have to understand how a lot of these movements were built off the backs of black women. And like you have mentioned, especially with black women slaves. And we have to go back to this book that's called pretty much talking about when white women owned slaves. And Martha Washington, the wife of George Washington, owned more slaves than he did. And we have to understand when she had put in her will, when she died, she wants her slaves to go to her husband because she had owned slaves, with her ex-husband prior to that. And so, we always hear, yeah, sister girl, like you're the home girl, yeah, this and yeah, that. But at the same time, when black issues come about, or even when black women are the most educated but the lowest paid, I always say, like, we're broken. You don't hear a lot of white allies saying, hey, sister girl, let me help you, get better pay. Because we have to also understand too is how wealth is held in households, and wealth and income are different. And when it comes to white households, they're not going to go against white men because that's who they partner up with, or even if they're part of a different type of LGBTQ, they still hold more wealth in the house. And so of course they're going to use you to be the work mule, to be, like I said, the sister girl, to do their dirty work while they're out here in droves voting for Trump. And I know so many black women got upset, was like, how did 83% of white women vote for Trump? Because they're voting by household. And once again, you're being used in the guise of feminism to do their dirty work.
Mm. One of the things that I did in the research, like I said, with Stanton is that she actually, and her bigoted views towards African American men was serious, where she was one of the first people that started calling black men Sambos.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they these women, the suffrage movement, Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, they hated the 15th Amendment. Anybody that knows about the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, these amendments were the Civil Rights Amendment, the first Civil Rights Amendment, the
Mm-hmm.
amendment that freed the traditional blacks as slaves, and the voting rights.
Right.
They hated the fact that a black man was able to vote first before a white woman. So
Mm-hmm.
these are things that we need to look at as if we want to consider ourselves novice historians, that we need to look at and realize the root of the hatred. Go
Right.
ahead, Dre.
And also too, you mentioned that Gloria Steinem had used a black woman in the 70s. You all can Google it for her Miss MS magazine, and was talking about how, like, look at this poor black woman, is just doing it on her own. She's on welfare, she's on this and she's on that, she's living in public housing. So she uses black woman to write this article about the conditions of the black ghettos in New York. And that kind of catapulted black women getting into feminism at that time, and not knowing that Gloria Steinem, pretty much came from wealth, married what's that guy's name that played Batman a while ago, Christian Bale's dad. That's wealth going back again, and saying and using this black woman who you probably seen her with a black woman with an afro. They have their black fist in the air, pumping the fist in the air, and saying like, oh, you black men are toxic masculinity. So whenever you hear buzzwords like toxic masculinity, that's going towards black men. I haven't seen that word used towards white men or any other groups. And so that's the Gloria Steinem movement. Also too, what's her name's a big advocate for Gloria Steinem. That's like her mentor, Hillary Rodham Clinton, and we know she called black men super predators. And so they're going with this whole pro feminism, and they always say it's pro feminism for them, not
And
for anyone else.
this was also, like you said, you brought up Clinton. This is why she's considered a Goldwater girl, because she ran with Barry Goldwater, who were blatant racists in the '60s. One of the things that you mentioned about Gloria Steinem, and we want our audience to understand, is that during the '60s, these groups, what I mean by groups is majority of the groups, the Black Panther Party, all the socialist parties, all these parties, the National Students Association, which was a front for the CIA, which Gloria Steinem was a part of, they were all
Mhm.
educated. The CIA, what they did in COINTELPRO, and which was ran by Hoover, and the CIA, what they did is they attacked the educational institutions, and they actually recruited the quote unquote smart ones to
Mhm.
infiltrate these grassroots groups. So this is what one of the key things about why a lot of people had a problem with Clinton. People thought that they had a problem with Clinton because she was racist. No, Clinton was actually considered a Goldwater girl.
Right.
and this was one of the issues that came up during her campaign as well.
Mhm. Exactly, and it's a good point. I'm gonna read this article real quick from the New York. It's called "The Women Behind the Feminist Movement." Influenced it usually turned out to be white, serious, well-educated girls, the same sort who have labored hard in what is loosely known as the movement, from the Southern sit-ins of 9 years ago to the current attacks on the military-industrial education complex. So see how this is a spinoff. They see what was going on in the South as far as with the sit-ins, and then they said, well, let's get the educated white women to do the same thing as far as with the feminist movement. And I didn't see any, and it was calling, black women who wasn't getting involved, Uncle Tom women, Negro women, even though they probably wanted to say the other word. And pretty much was like they had a list of radical priorities and how to radicalize men when it came to this setup in the South to mimic the Southern sit-ins. And it says, finally, women begin to rap about their essential second classness, forming women caucus inside the movement in much the same way Black power groups have done. And once together, they made a lot of discoveries that they share more problems with women of different classes, for instance, than they did with men of their own, that they liked and respected each other. And if women don't want to work with women as Negroes used to reject other Negroes, it's usually because they believe the myth of their own inferiority. And as that, Black militants kept complaining to white liberals, you don't get radicalized fighting other people's battles. So this was pretty much, as Q said, like a whole agenda and movement of like how, like I said, it's this, I call it the sister girl talk. It's like, sister girl, we got, vaginas, old boy ain't doing you right at the crib, like come join this movement, and not knowing everything is okay, with them. Yeah, you probably got mad because you have to go out there and work. But at the same time, we're not just out here just working. We're out here building a nation. We're out here, trying to dismantle white supremacy, and we have a lot of odds against us. So they use this whole, we're in the same class, not knowing that they are getting wealth from their families because it's probably been passed down through slavery, not knowing they've been well educated, not knowing that the jobs are going to be readily for them. And let's talk about that real quick. When we talk about affirmative action, white women are considered in the class of affirmative action. So not only you're white, but you're a woman. And so like there, when you see a lot of women who are CEOs and presidents and executive directors at these nonprofits, in my case, they have always been white women, and you'll see a sprinkle of, a black woman in there. So, this feminist movement is very strange. It's very disheartening to see the context behind it. And like I said, why would anyone Black, would join this movement? And you look at your, I'm gonna say this, you look at your counterpart who have less education are running agents for corporations. So that's a big question I have.
Yeah, one of the issues that a couple of years ago when they was doing all the women marches across the country, a friend of mine had went, and I said something, so she had got on me about saying something because she thought that it was a good thing, and I tried to explain to her and give her some context, like, look, this ain't for you, this ain't for us, but to give, just like I said, we want to give people some history as well as just some of the things that we experience in our own lives with dealing with this type of stuff, so people don't think we just talking at the top of our head. In 1913, organizers of a parade for the suffrage movement wanted the black assembly to sit in the back and wear all black. Now, anybody that know anything about the suffrage movement, they always wear white. This is
Mm-hmm.
their colors. So in 1913, during the movement, so this is just to give everybody a historical aspect of this movement started with Susan B. Anthony and Stanton, and
Mm-hmm.
all the way up until today, even with Gloria Steinem, the likes of Paulie Murray. Anybody ever know anybody think about Paulie Murray? She
Mm-hmm.
was a black woman. She could pass for a little boy. She was into the
Mm-hmm.
church, but Paulie Murray
Right.
hated black men.
Yes.
despised them, almost to the
Yeah.
fact where she infiltrated during the civil rights movement, and it was around Martin Luther King and them,
Yes.
but she hated black men.
And she
Paulie
started
Murray,
the WOW movement. She started
yes,
the women movement in Durham, North Carolina. And actually, since you mentioned that, I have when I was in Durham this summer for a conference, I went on a tour just to see about her life. And like you said, she hated black men. She pretty much will be classified in this era as a transgender. She's considered a saint in the Episcopalian Church. Also, too, as I mentioned, she was considered a lesbian. And so she was a very staunch advocate against black men. They try to jazz it up a little bit during the tour I went on, was like, oh, like she was about the people, but you can tell the undertones that she wasn't about black men.
yeah. So the woman we talking about, her name is Paulie Murray.
Halle Mary.
If you Google her and start looking into some of the things that she said, some of her writings, she hated black men. And this conversation that we having is not to attack LGBTQ. It's
No.
not to attack white people. It's not to attack black people. It's just to put the facts in front of the people, and you decide. And a lot of times, a lot of people like to say they're feminist because it sounds good, or say they part of a women's movement because we always want to encourage empowerment amongst people in general, women and men.
Mm-hmm.
However, a lot of these groups are based on white supremacy and hatred towards a particular group of people, and this is what we want to expose, if we can expose that in this short period of time. But one of the things that Gloria Steinem did, for those that don't know, and Rel, if you're still watching, I actually sent you the link, so I emailed it to you. One of the things that Gloria Steinem did recently was she tried to speak highly of Tarana Burke, who started
Mm-hmm.
the Me Too movement, and basically said that black women were more feminist than white women. So I don't know if how people want to take that, but just know that Gloria Steinem was a CIA operative.
Yes.
I mean, and it's clear as day. One of the things that the magazine, what was it? What was her
Miss,
magazine? Yeah,
Miss, and
The Miss
Maggie.
magazine,
Mm-hmm.
the Miss magazine, as well as she did so much stuff, man. Gloria Steinem, actually, it was a book. This is the book that me and you had discussed right before we came on air. She put a book out called Black Macho and the Myth of the Superwoman. She used a pen name
Mm-hmm.
and tried to say it was a black woman, but nobody ever
Right.
heard of the black woman. She was never seen. So they say that
Mm-hmm.
Gloria Steinem was actually the writer of this book. It's called The Black Macho and the Myth of the Superwoman. And it
Superwoman.
was
Right.
basically the beginning and a critique on an attack on black men and the black
Mm-hmm.
nationalist movement. Because we all know like SNCC and all these movements was going on in the
Mm-hmm.
60s and in the early 70s. You had some more
Right.
to say, Drea?
No, I definitely agree with that. A lot of people, I think they knew that she was a CIA informant, but they still rock with her. I also seen like a updated, not book, but an article placed in Essence magazine within the last 5 years about the myth of the superwoman, talking about pretty much how black women are left to hold the bag when it comes to the community, when it comes to, upliftment of black men. It was talking about how the rise of feminist movement is on the rise because of just, black women being fed up with, just being left out here, doing all the work. But the thing that upsets me about that is it's like we've been doing the work. Whether if we were supporting the uplifting of black men, we don't need a movement to support that, especially a racist movement. But it's very daunting to see how a lot of black women follow Gloria Steinem. And like I said, her background is totally different from from black women. And I think a lot of the movement, a lot of women had created their own movement because you hear about Kimberly Crenshaw about intersectionality and intersection, because you'll hear a lot of like feminists say, well, if my feminism is not intersectionality, I don't want it, but at the same time, it's not gonna be intersectional. It's gonna be exclusive. So we have to think of feminism movement as an exclusive movement that's not including Black women. They'll use you, for a front, and probably have you speak, have one of y'all, because they can only deal with one or two Black people. And like Q said, this is not about a racial, connotation, but they'll probably put a Black face on a flyer and say, "Oh yeah, we're inclusive," but at the end of the day, you're really not. So it's no difference than you being in the workplace if you have one Black person in that workplace. Oh, we're inclusive and diverse, but not knowing the affirmative action bylaws and laws was not created for you to be in that workplace in the beginning as well.
Yeah, the one of one of the things that I noticed, like I said, when we both did our own separate research, was and it was an activist, it was a feminist activist called Michelle Wallace. In the
Mm-hmm.
book, she calls Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman, who I like to call a general, because Harriet Tubman was everything a general is.
Mm-hmm.
She called them, and she called all black revolutionaries chauvinist, macho, piss, and black women got it clan. Some crazy stuff she used to say. She used to just say some stuff about black nationalists and people that was for uh, freeing the slaves. She just very spoke really, really ill of them. So Sojourner Truth was never a part of the suffrage movement.
Right.
And if you Google her, they'll try to say it. She was never with this racism stuff, and because they were overt racist. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
even trying to hide it what they was about.
Right.
Like I said about Steinem, uh, she triggered. Like I said, she triggered with that book, the hate all black men books. That even up to the day, you have to
Mm-hmm.
be very careful with books that in literature that will seem like it's in a woman's empowerment book, but it's actually an attack on black men. And this is something that I believe that we all need to be careful, because the black family never had a problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When what I mean by that is that the black family never had issues with each other during slavery. We didn't have a problem with each other, and then all through slavery up until now, we never had a problem until I can say it. Outside influences came into
Right.
the the aspect. We always talk about how do we get the black family back, and this is a discussion that we all talk about. You see a lot of black women; they want their black men to be more important in their lives, and vice versa. But the black family never had an issue until outside forces came in.
Mm-hmm.
We was always about family. We was always about structure. Um, I won't say that the family was a democracy, but everybody had a role from
Right.
man, woman, and child.
Definitely. 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 And like you said, it's you have
We
we
got
have
we got Rel in here.
another.
Rel seen the topic and probably was like, "Oh, I got to get some of this." Rel, what's going on?
Nothing, man. Y'all can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
hear you
we
good.
hear
Were you at
Yeah.
work?
Yeah.
you.
You got something to add with this feminism stuff? It's quote unquote Women's Month, and
Hmm.
we wanted to do our first broadcast trying to like shed some light on what feminism really means, and how it has always had some racial overtones with it. Though we as men, we always want to empower women and never seem like we're chauvinists, but we do want to say that this feminism movement and this suffrage movement, unfortunately, has had racism in it, and nobody likes to talk about it. Nobody wants to address it.
Hmm.
Even so much so that, like I said, in 1913, when they had a big march in D.C., that they
Hmm.
wanted the Black Assembly to wear all black. So
Right.
much so that anybody that knows why the Congresswomen during the State of the Union, they all wear white in honor of the suffrage movement. So I don't know why anybody that's black or anybody that has Latino origins would ever want to
Mhm.
honor them. And you know, you don't take nothing away from any plight, but any plight that has a core that's quote unquote into your oppression and into someone else's oppression needs to be exposed. So, Rel, you got something to add, brother?
Um, Pretty much it's just like you said. It's hard to speak about it because, first of all, it seems like anything you say is against the whole entirety of womanhood, which is not the case. But it's set up so well, you can't do anything about it. A lot of people have valid concerns about, you know, what's the woman's role in the house, and if they hear that, they be like, women have no role. But I mean, obviously, we each have roles because if a man wasn't providing, then you would want him out your house, you know. But it's very difficult to talk to a lot of women nowadays because so many are attached to it. And I
Mhm.
mean, the topics may seem valid, but at surface level, they're valid. They're just talking points, and when you get deeper into it, I mean, us as black men and women, I mean, men and women, we got the same issues regardless.
Mhm.
So why are we fracturing the movement?
Mhm.
you know, so
Yeah.
and a lot of what y'all read, I have read, topics or quotes, saying from these leaders, and I thought the same thing. And it's like I don't even think a lot of these feminists take time to even read what they're involved in.
Right.
So
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like the like unfortunately it's like sometimes we hear history about how the CIA and FBI broke up things in the black
Mhm.
as far as black empowerment, and it's like we're talking on deaf ears. It's like it's 2020 and people think that this stuff still don't go on, or like, oh, this happened, with the Tuskegee thing.
Mhm.
Andrea, you can speak from that because you graduated from Tuskegee University.
Mhm.
Like people will be like, oh, oh nah, this happened, they didn't do this. You know they did it.
right,
You know they
Mhm.
bought
yeah,
crack in our community. And then it's
Right.
like, okay, they bought crack in our community, but you're still getting mad at the crack addict or the crack
Mhm.
dealer. But
yeah,
you know
Right.
they bought it in our community and they destabilized our growth.
yeah,
Mhm.
It's like, when you speak, like you said, Ro, when you speak about it, and if you speak into certain women, and like I said, it's not to blast women or to make women feel insignificant. They'll look at you like you want to be a chauvinist.
right. That automatically, and
Right.
you know me, I'm very free thinking. I really don't care who, I'm good with me. So and it's if you're a family man, that's very concerning. It don't matter if it's your wife, your aunt, and we see it in our family. So it's like you try to stop it, but it's such an unstoppable force, and that shit was put there to attack us.
Mhm. And I also have to like blame social engineering too.
Right?
Social engineering is like this is the year of the woman. I heard this yesterday. I was watching something. It's like this is the year of the woman. This is the century of the woman. But at the same time too, I look at it because I have a black father. My father's been active in my life all 37 years of my life. I'm married to a black man, and I couldn't be a feminist because that means that I have to tear down black men, and I'm not about that life because there's so many great black men who helped me to be the woman that I am.
They
Countless,
forget that. They
you
forget
know,
their aunt, their
did
uncle. You
that.
know,
Right. Exactly. They forget
yeah,
that. So that's why I couldn't be a feminist because I'm like, I come from a strong lineage of black men who helped me to be the woman that I am. And like when I have kids, like I can't be sitting up here, especially if I have a son, like, oh, you know what, you're a toxic masculinity. And it's like, what? Because he want to play football. And that's something basic that people will say, like, oh, you're a toxic, you're
yeah,
supporting that because he wants to play sports or he wants to play football or you telling him to stop crying, but I'm pretty sure none of us are going to do that or have done that. But at the same time, when when I see a lot of black feminists, this is my opinion, a lot of them are just trying to get a lot of attention from white men. So they'll tear down the black man and they'll go and get a white zaddy. If you guys ever heard of this lady named Feminista Jones, she's horrible. Like she tears down black men any chance that she can get. but she has children by white men. And like I said, it's not a racial show, but I have to point that out. And like if you look at her tweets, you're like really clutching your pearls, like, yo, who hurt you, sis? If that individual brother hurts you, you have beef with him. Don't have beef
Right.
with the whole, black men, because or if you got daddy issues, you need to go to therapy. And so I see a lot of that happens. And which to the point, like one black man may have destroyed their life, then you need to have that discussion with him, and you need to get yourself into to get some healing, because you can't destroy every black man on the face of the earth, because that's not fair. And then a lot of women get into it, oh, because my pay. And like I said before, education and affirmative action is always going to go to white women. It don't matter how many times we sue, it's gonna go to white women. But what about the black man who's only, getting, let's say, $30,000 or less? And that's been a lot of articles about that. Why we're not advocating for him? Why we advocating for sister girls to get six figures while you're being her work mule and she don't even know how to work the copier? So that's a lot of issues that I have with the feminist movement that we don't have those conversations about.
What's her name again, Drea? What's
Feminista Jones.
All right? So that's for the audience to look her up. Like you
Is
said,
she a
it's
YouTuber?
she all over Twitter and YouTube. Feminista Jones. Like you said, one of the issues is like you said, this is some people are touting this the decade of or the century of the woman. We saw it with the hot girl summer. I think that as African American or traditional Black Americans, we don't understand how we're mules. We're mules for certain movements.
Right.
And what I mean by that is somebody will say this stuff unintentionally and don't realize that the same person that you're putting down, i.e., a black man or a black woman, is the same one that you have in your household, whether it's your son or your daughter. Like I said, a lot of times you will see this, people are hurt. And,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the experience of why you're hurt, it's a learning experience. You can't blame a whole group of men for hurting you, or you can't group a whole bunch of women for hurting you. And what happens is that, like I said, this is what people start following with these slogans, and they're like, "I'm a feminist. I'm a part of the
Yeah.
feminist movement." Uh, don't you got a brother?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you got a
Right.
father? Don't you got sons? And you may have a son.
Mm-hmm.
And it all ties into an agenda that a lot of us like to say, well, the country got an agenda or the media got an agenda. And all of it ties together. Every last thing ties together, and it's something that we need to really be mindful of. Is how a lot of people like to say this in the '60s, the power of the black movements and trying to liberate our people was the black family.
Mm-hmm.
That was the base. And these things that they did, the CIA, the FBI, what they did is attack the black family
Mm-hmm.
and said, we're gonna attack the base. We're gonna take the man out the house, i.e., welfare, and I'll say it.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna bring drugs in the community. And a person may be like, well, I didn't tell nobody to use drugs. I didn't tell you. Well, the job market is not there. The job
Right.
market is not there. It's
Right.
not there. You got people now that wanna just work and just do what they do to take care of their family, but they can't even pay rent where they live at.
Mm-hmm.
So now
Mm-hmm.
they living in a situation that might not be conducive towards their growth. Or they,
Right.
they they might be in a bad situation and they just trying to make it. And then what we do. Well, you got to get out. You got to go somewhere else. So this is something that we need to look at. And like I said, these type of topics, we hope that at least one person could benefit from it. I mean,
Definitely.
you got to look at it in your home. Like, do you want to practice feminism in your home? Because you can't be feminist, and this is to all the women, and people gonna get mad. You can't be feminist and have sons. You
Mm,
Right.
cannot be feminist and have sons.
right. I like that.
Period.
I like that.
Period.
But now the new thing is, if you all didn't know, they want men to be feminists. Because you hear a lot of I can't think of the Nigerian author's name. She wrote a book, We All Should Be Feminists. No, men can be pro women, men can be pro they could be an advocate, they could be an ally and work alongside women, but I don't think men can be feminists. I just don't think that concept, it's just like an oxymoron. But I agree. I don't think that if you have sons that you should be a feminist, because I can imagine you're tearing that child down because he was born as a man. Because the number one thing we hear is you just like your no good daddy, right? And so like we have to really raise the consciousness and vibration from that low level thinking of he's just like his daddy. But look at yourself, sis. You picked old boy to be your baby's father. So I think
Yeah,
people can get mad at me about that too. But we have to make conscious decisions for ourselves and how we're going to be stronger families of the choices that we make, because old boy wasn't about that life, but you decided to go, he told you, but you decided to go forward with that. So we have to really check ourselves and our lingo and what we involve ourselves with, and not constantly be mad at one another because of personal decisions that we decided to make.
yeah. I think like a lot with feminism is just like a tool to escape, accountability for some of your choices as well. And then you're always gonna find a friend who believes in that. No, girl, that's what they do or whatever. But you're not. It's no critical thinking, And the critical thinking is always, damn, I saw those red flags or whatever. But now you waving a hate flag for whatever happened on your personal situation, and there's no talking to you because you feel in that emotional connection that tore you up, in this conversation with me. But I'm not him, I'm just talking to you objectively. Yeah.
And I think that's one of those apprehensions that a lot of us men get. And Rel, I know me and you could probably speak on it more than Drea, is that when we see like pro girl, pro women groups, pro sisterhood groups and stuff like like I have a friend, she has a girl meetup, a girl talk, and it's very positive. They share a lot of information. I think a lot of men, we have a lot of apprehension because we
Mhm.
feel like these type of organizations, because some of us know the origin of feminism, we feel like these type of organizations don't do nothing but bash men. So I think we're not as supportive in a way towards women with women issues, because like, yo, oh, they're all they gonna do is be there bashing brothers. Like, don't nobody want to be a part of that. Like, yo, it's a bad session. Because at the end of the day, when is the picker? When we come into relationships, not just personal relationships, but friendship relationships, when is the picker of the relationship gonna be accountable?
Mm-hmm.
And see, I can imagine like Drea saying that somewhere, talking to some, and they will get on her because they don't
Mm-hmm.
ever want to feel like, okay, that was my fault. It's
Right.
actually, I bet you it's maybe 100 good men for every, but you want to pick that unique dude who might be doing this. He might have a little change because of that. But it's like, sis, you see all these men here. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. And I have been attacked by saying that. And they like, well, get married, you don't know. And I'm like, yeah, but once upon a time I was single too. But I also made conscious decisions of who I wanted to, be my life partner and who I wanted to move forward with in my life. And also too, like I said, a lot of women, they have daddy issues, or they may not have daddy issues. They just don't want that traditional marriage, or they want to be independent. And
Right.
like I'm all about, hey, like I said, I seen in my household, my dad was the head of the household. My dad paid for everything, and he made sure that my mom, my brothers, and I was straight and was a provider and protector. But I think we don't see that in society now. So it's like, well, I gotta be this independent woman, and then we have so many school articles talking about, well, this is the year of women, and why are we dying of a early rate, because we're taking the burden on the weight of the world. But this been going on for 400 plus years.
Yeah.
So we have to really check ourselves and look ourselves in the mirror and take accountability and responsibility for our life and the decisions that we make as well.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Definitely.
one of the issues, like I said, we want to always have a talk like this and always want to give people some historical references.
Hmm.
Um, I'm in my library, but I can't find the book right now. But it's a book called Operation Mockingbird.
Mhm.
And
Hmm.
Operation Mockingbird was a secret CIA mission. It was to influence. The CIA had they wanted to influence the media, and it was basically a Cold War operation. And they would publish articles, and this is something that Gloria Steinem, who's considered the uh, face of modern day feminism, this is something that she was part of. She was part of Operation Mockingbird. Now, Operation Mockingbird gets acclaim because they said that this operation is how the Cold War was won,
Mm-hmm.
supposedly. But also know that, like we discussed earlier, the National Students Association was a front for the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
This was going on in the 60s. So this is very important that everybody understand the era of the 60s. We lost in the 60s. These are the black leaders that we lost: Malcolm, Martin,
Mm-hmm.
Medgar Evers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think Thurgood Marshall died. No, no, no. Thurgood Marshall didn't die. It was
Mm-hmm.
W.E.B. Du Bois died in the 60s. So we have to be very mindful of the historical context of what was going on. It's like a rebirth of Black Pride in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So these type of operations was going on. So this is something that people need to be aware of. Just don't think we just talking just to be talking. That if you look up feminism, it's not something that's new. The origin of feminism started with the suffrage movement, and they wanted equal rights from their counterparts, white
Right.
men. They needed the blacks, former slaves, still slaves, to help them in their cause. But they were racist. Those women were racist. Susan
Mm-hmm.
B. Anthony, Susan B. Anthony, and Stanton. So if you look up their works, like I said, this is not uh, the time to look up their works now. But if you look up their works on your free time, you'll find that the origin of these people were blatant racism. So much so.
Exactly, exactly. And here's some authors I want to just put out there for those who are like, I'm a feminist. I want you to really read Bell Hooks, Audrey Lloyd, Alice Walker, as we know, who wrote The Color Purple. They was considered themselves black feminists, and they actually have started this whole second movement of black feminism. It attached themselves with the civil rights movement. So read their works and look at your own feminism ideology and say, okay, do a match it. Because a lot of them, especially Bell Hooks and Audrey Lloyd, they attach themselves to not only being a feminism, but why can I be an openly lesbian in the 60s and 70s. So really look at the work that they have done, read it and see, okay, is this an alignment of me being a feminist? This is for, everyone who, I'm challenging everyone who thinks they're a feminist. Also look at Claudine, like Claudine is a telling sign of sociology 101 and how, in the movie, she couldn't even have a boyfriend. Can't have a toaster because the social worker was coming in there and pretty much disrupting the black family unit. So look at that for a sociology 101 reading, and also look at the works of Kimberly Crenshaw, the whole intersectionality. If my feminism doesn't involve intersectionality, I don't want it. So check out those folks, and these are all black women, and even Angela Davis, she's considered herself a feminist, and see if their feminism is in alignment with that. And if it's not, like, clutch your pearls, because there's a deeper reason why some of these ladies wrote and got into the whole feminist movement, because they wanted to also be openly out with their sexuality, which if that's what you want to do, cool, but also know the connotation behind why a lot of black women became feminists as well.
And it's interesting you brought up Angela Davis. Angela Davis is considered, like you said, a feminist and a socialist. And her surrogate niece was named after Sojourner Truth. Sojourner Smollett is considered her surrogate niece. So these are
Mm,
some historical things that we need to look at and understand that these movements are not what they appear to be.
mm-hmm.
So we're gonna close out. I mean, Rel, I know you at work, man. I appreciate you wanting to get on. Drea, we know the I appreciate you. I know we got another show on Thursday we're gonna try to do. That's
Yes.
definitely gonna be in your wheelhouse. So look forward to the flyer, everybody, for the Thursday show at 12 o'clock as well. Rel, you got something to say before we close out?
No, I'm good. Good information here. We should have did this later on in the night.
We can always do a part two.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they need it. They need it.
Well, we got hopefully this just to give the viewers some insight. We have a show on Thursday that's scheduled. That's going to be on numerology. Friday we got one show that's scheduled so far. It's going to be mental illness in the black community. Saturday we got one show scheduled that's going to be on the Democratic race and Trump. But also, it might be some other shows that might just be emergency shows just to talk about. We want to talk about the coronavirus, and as
Mm.
well as we want to talk about, I think, the sister from Hot Spot, the sister that's being attacked by Target by the people from
Oh,
she got
the
her
honey,
products in Target.
the
So we
honey pot.
probably the honey pot. So we probably gonna discuss that within the next day or two. Like I said, our schedules are a little different. Even with some of our other co-hosts that's not here today, their schedules a little different. They work at day. Some of us work at night. Some of us work at home. So we appreciate everything. Dre, do you have something you wanted to share before we close out?
No, this was a good show. Like I said, for your audience, just to look up, those women and see if your feminism is aligned with that. But just know what you're getting into before you consider yourself anything. So,
Yeah. Once again, thanks for everybody that joined us. If like we say always, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe, and please try to pass the word what we're trying to do. If you don't know what we're trying to do, we're just trying to talk about issues, ordinary issues that happen with ordinary people. That's part of the talk show aspect of the show, and part of the interview aspect of the show is interviewing ordinary people doing extraordinary things in our community. It could be anybody. If you think that they could bring something to the table that'll be benefit, just let me know. The email is ltalk5600 at gmail.com. If you're on Facebook, you could inbox me or leave something on the page as well. Like I said, Thursday we got a show on numerology. Friday we got a show on mental illness in the black community. Saturday it's going to be the political show, the Democratic race, and Trump. And that's going to be a very interesting show. And I'm gonna let everybody know because we're gonna have two Republicans, one definitely Republican on the show. And all I can say is, if you're into the political thing and you have a party, is pack a lunch because that should be interesting. Glad everybody could join us. Like I said, like and subscribe to the page, and stay tuned for our next episodes. Thank you. Have a good day.